I was going to say them taking those two heroes maybe feels a little bit better to then put Analog onto one of those spirits, but four Zoomers kind of take the Ember away. Could still try and play out something with the Storm here, but gets into a bit of a rougher situation, and now four Zoomers. Here's where we come to something interesting, that Bounty Hunter pickup for them. The last time we saw them try it, they moved it away from the core position. The first time they picked it up, it was a core. The second time they ran Z-Freak on it, worked so much better for them. The only thing is, now that you've put the Bounty Hunter in there, this is pretty much going to be a Monkey King at the 1. I don't really think there's any more room for them to finagle with that.
Yeah, and that's where I think for Zoomers, they still do need to find a little bit of balance in their lanes, because if it is a 4 Bounty Hunter, then how do you then make the 3 offlaner work? Do you set him up on a ranged hero? Do you look for possibly the Snapfire? An
Oh,
Analog Puck? Okay. We've seen it banned out, especially when it comes down to that last phase fairly frequently, but Puck has certainly been shoved aside when it comes to the main meta. Just doesn't have enough damage in most of the games when a lot of these strength tiers have been picked up. But hey, look at the bans. So many strength tiers are taken out already that I think we'll probably see a little bit more of a voice from the Puck here. Not to mention, look at the opposing team. Four Zoomers are very fragile, all things considered here. They're not playing that same style of Dota that we've seen so many other teams go for in this tournament, where they pick 3 strength heroes, the Timbersaw's banned out, and then they kind of just win off of that. But this is where I think the Puck maybe has some more time to shine. And again, very low lockdown, I think, across the board on both teams here. You do have the chains to play with on your Ember, but it's still a little bit more difficult than I think you're happy. And I do wonder now where Hokori decided to take their bans, because 4 Zoomers are the ones that are actually banning out the Morphling here.
I like that ban from Hokori, though, because at this point you are looking to Moo's pool. That LC not only would have given them some lockdown, some durability, but then you're playing into that double heal strat that we have seen four Zoomers so effectively employ. So, not going to let Moo play that. Would not be surprised at this point, though, if they just look to remove someone tanky. I mean, at this point, the Mars is still in the pool. There's always the threat of that sort of Moo tide that you can maybe take away, although with the Timbersaw in the pool, maybe you lean away from that a little bit, but if you're still worried about that teamfight strength, that could certainly make for a solid ban for them.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, feel like I would love to see it, but it's just impossible this game. Can't really pick the Pango, which is Moo has done and played a little bit here, but just a little bit too rough, a little bit too ugly. Uh, a part of me with seeing the Bounty Hunter picked up is like, is there any way they pick the Underlord? Is there any way we see the Pit Lord? And I'm like, probably not versus Timbersaw, but that is where if they wanted to run the Monkey King as a 3 position and then shift everything around, at the very least, you can now look for a hero that isn't a strength hero. You play completely against the Timbersaw. You don't look for a beefy offlaner. Instead, you say that maybe it's going to be okay depending on what we see Yuma slot into. But I'm honestly racking my brain here a little bit. I thought for a second maybe we see a hero like the Brewmaster, but in that same vein, you're playing versus a Silence, you're playing versus really heroes that are very adept with dealing with you, and I think that'd be a little bit of a gamble, but that is what Four Zoomers want. That's the type of hero that they're looking for. They want someone that can double down on magic damage alongside Gunner. They want to run in very early on, kind of take a lot of space, and then set up for this Monkey King ring, and that really is what they're lacking right now. If Costa gets someone to play with, that would be absolutely perfect. And I actually think that ban on the Magnus, quite smart from Hokori, because I don't know if they would go for it, especially in a best of one. It's kind of that gamble play where you really need a stand-up performance from your Magnus to make him feel more like a hero. But that also means Mars has gone all the way through if they want to just go for it. And SK,
Okay.
a little more magic damage for sure.
Yeah, more maybe offensively oriented than some of the other heroes that we have been talking about. Of course, depending on the build, your Sand King may not always be the tankiest hero in the world, but I would assume Moo is going to build up something for himself that's going to give him that durability, just so that it's not Ember and Monkey on the front lines. So we'll see what he chooses to do, if it's some sort of quick Vanguard play or maybe a hood for him. But in the meantime, looking at the Hokori side, they are very much trying to nail down Yuma's hero here. Up against some AoE damage on the other side. I don't know if you want to lean back into any illusion-based carries, and they won't. Instead, they're going to grab themselves the Ursa.
Yeah. And honestly, it's been a few days since we've seen the Ursa. A lot of teams really took a step back on the Bear, especially once the standings and the games really started to matter. But that's where this is one of the old counters versus Monkey King, where you are deceptively tanky in your ring until you get 6, 7 stacks of those Fury Swipes, and then suddenly Yuma is just instantly able to kill you. And I think that's where Costa Bile needs to be very cautious with how these team fights actually break out here. At the same time, I think that if or Zoomers actually find that jump, man, they have a free way in. There is really no save aside from that Nightmare. They don't really have anything to worry about. They did pick SK into Puck, which is a little bit rough, and we've actually seen that matchup before earlier on in this tournament where you can't Burrow Strike, you can just Sandstorm, you sit there, you kind of wait for death almost in some situations, and I think that's where Mood needs to be very careful, especially once Analog hits level 6. Probably going to see the Puck poke his head in that lane, and you really don't want to give up any kill here because he is that important. He is the one playing second fiddle to Gunner here, and he really is the one supplying a lot of this additional damage, especially in that early mid game, because Costa Bile, he's going to certainly show up to the fight, but it feels like you're going to possibly see more of a heavy farm style. He certainly will be able to carry slightly harder than that Ursa, but that's also where Hokori, in the same vein as that TA, they have that forcing play where they force 4 Zoomers to come to that Roche pit, possibly before that Blink Dagger's finished on the SK, before your item timings are necessarily done. And that's where we certainly are going to see a big team fight.
Yeah, so Moo, now like you said, they're going to rely upon him for damage. He's going to be their primary initiator, really 9 times out of 10, unless the Ember just gets some perfect searing chains. So a lot of pressure on him, but we've said that a lot in Moo's direction, and I mean, he's sort of proven himself to be very much up to that task here. It's just a matter of whether he can do it this time, because this is really going to be the last chance for both of these squads. You were mentioning in the draft, we've effectively brought it back to a best of 1. Teams swapped the first 2 games of the series, so well, win and you advance, lose and you are done. Elimination on the line here, so no more room for mistakes, no more room to get greedy. We'll see which squad can better execute the game plan here, as we've got those smokes coming out once again. ET, throughout the entirety of this series, these teams have been so trigger happy basically with these smoke plays, and we are going to have them run into each other, but I don't know what's going to come of this. Boundless Strike is going to be deployed there, but Hokori doesn't care. The problem is now, yeah, Costabile, now that you've used the Boundless, there's really nothing left to fight with. Nice juggling of the Nightmare. That's pretty nifty, because the arrow just flies through everything, doesn't connect, and well, 4 Zoomers are just fine, and as a matter of fact, they're actually looking to push back in.
Yeah, and I honestly think I can understand why Costa Bile leads the charge, especially if he pre-skills up Boundless Strike, but not having Moo close enough for the follow-up Burrow Strike, they're not giving up, though. This is a crazy fight, and if Hokori want to actually get that bounty rune up top, they've got quite a long walk ahead of them, but that's where we could see another Nightmare setup. Unfortunately, they're so close to their opponents right now. Do they go for it? They know he's going to get woken up. Do they go for the secondary? Nah, they peel off. They don't want to do anything further.
You saw him thinking about it, though. Sort of faking it out a little bit there, but yeah, they were already peeling away. The damage was gone. It was just the Hokori and Gardic, so they're not really feeling up to making that attempt all by themselves, so we'll just settle into the start of the lanes, as 4 Zoomers keeping 3 heroes down here, so well, we'll see what they do. The problem is they have Janata early on here instead of a Shuriken Toss, so I don't really know if there's much in the way of kill potential, and now with Hokori bringing both of their supports over as well, they're just going to turn into a straight-up brawl.
Yeah, and I do like this. A lot of the times whenever they do have a melee 4 in Z-Freak, I feel like Husky is probably going to be the one to stick down here unless he really feels like Costa Bile is going to need him, but that's where you also have the Monkey versus Timbersaw matchup. They should be relatively fine in holding this trial lane, at least for the current moment, but that's also where, hey, none of these camps are blocked out. Husky, yet again, gets a fairly free time here. Doesn't have the Holy Persuasion, though. We're going to need to get that at level 2. Got the Pendant, it's level 1 for the first blood attempt.
So they will have to wait a little while. Meanwhile, mid, Analog wasting no time, trying to go right at Gunner and trying to establish dominance in this lane. Did drop him pretty low, but not quite low enough for the kill. But this is always something about this matchup, Puck versus Ember. Gunner, until he has multiple points up to try and absorb some of that nuke damage, he's going to have to play this maybe a little bit more carefully.
Yeah, and doing the quick maths right now. Unfortunately, that's where I think Analog at level 3, no matter what spell he gets, isn't actually able to break that second Flame Guard point, but it's still going to be a fairly even lane here. And as we've seen with Ember Spirits really throughout the main tournament, it's just impossible to really shut him down in the same way that you were able to do previously, just because he can always slight for creeps. He never really gets shut out of levels like he was before.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Gunnar in particular very rarely just sort of straight up loses a lane. He will either win it or draw. Speaking of winning, Theolacor, nice play. Spots out Husky in the river. No backup in sight. Throws the arrow to try and get Gunnar off the water rune. Nice attempt, but Gunnar's able to sidestep it. So if you're Theolacor, you don't get the secondary play, but the first blood definitely going to be worthwhile there.
No, certainly very nice here. And I think that's where Husky was maybe not the happiest with which creeps he had got at first. So he was just looking at his large camp, and then, well, he gets clipped. And they have got the laning setup that I think they want on Hokori's side. Can't really do anything, and that's an odd bro strike from Mood there. But as long as they have the Mirana really poking at Husky, it's never going to be a certainty with whether or not you get that creep pressure coming in forward. And I think that's where Husky might just look to jungle whenever he gets the opportunity to and just leave Moo on his own devices, because at least in the current moment, can't really do much for his Sand King.
Yeah, this has been a little bit awkward. Chen goes down once, and then he's just kind of, I don't know, sitting here, really. I mean, he's not doing any damage to Yuma. He's not really disrupting anything the Mirana's trying to get accomplished, so he's just kind of sitting and waiting to see what kind of play can be made, but maybe not the most effective use of time here in the stages. Meanwhile, what is going on up top? Gardic is looking for a bit of a pull on the creep wave, and Z-Freak, I don't think he's going to be able to stop it. He's just looking to get what damage in that he really possibly can here.
Yeah, and that's where, unfortunately, Bane does just win these. You can't really ever force the hero out. He's just disgustingly robust. Not as good as an ogre, albeit, but being able to effectively trade like that is just very nice. At the very least, Z-Freak isn't going to get his bounty rune sniped out from underneath him, but that's where, actually, Analog in the river, they're all fighting for these water runes. This is a huge battle early on.
Yeah, it's a battle. It looks like four Zoomers are going to win. Gunnar gets one of the water runes. Z-Freak gets the other. So now Analog, not in a great spot regen-wise. One charge on the bottle and a Fairy Fire is all he's working with at the moment. And I think his Courier just came into lane and didn't really deliver him much else. But, well, that's what you got supports for. Gardic makes the trip over. Going to be able to salve up his buddy, and Puck should be just fine.
Yeah, even though there is going to be that slight harass, Gunnar's not messing around, because as good as the second point is in Flame Guard, the third point, you suddenly are going to get cracked whenever you do just get that spam from the Puck, and then you're not really happy with how much damage you're doing. But, ooh, nice little kill. Z-Freak, he's getting the couriers. Got to get the courier counter going, because there is a bounty hunter in this game, but see how effective Z-Freak is at that.
Able to get one there so far. Gardic, really can't do much of anything to stop it. He'll just try and stack up this camp instead. Not a bad play, certainly. Especially if the Puck can maybe get in there and start using some of that magic damage, or honestly, even Vitali on the Timber could try and make his way over. But for the time being, this Timbersaw is really just sticking out this lane. 1v1 against the Monkey King. Not really a whole lot that either one of these two is going to do to the other. They're just content to farm at the moment, but gotta be careful. Gardic, he's still in the area, right? And you always got to be a little bit aware of that Nightmare just in case. But with Z-Freak back in the lane as well, I don't think there's too much of a threat at the moment.
No, and that's also with how little Gardic has taken, and he is barely level 2. Vitali is almost level 6 with a full creep wave pushing into him, and it's going to be another creep wave in a second if he just keeps it static. But I do think this is not the lane they wanted, but bottom, ooh, big trades.
Analog was able to rotate in. The problem is, yeah, they lose too much. Husky gets the kill on both Yuma and Theolacor, of course. Kills for your Chen. You know, value is so-so there, and Analog is the one to get the kill on his own side, but with the Puck especially, ET, you know, you want to make those rotations as cleanly as possible, and that was very much not clean for them. At least you get Analog some money, but now they immediately need to look for another play. So making their way mid, they've got the Nightmare, they need those creeps out of the way, though. Theolacor's going to try for it anyway, and he doesn't get it.
No, it's really tight. They even throw out the Waning Rift just because the odds are maybe a little bit higher and they try to nuke the wave, but it's not in the cards. And, well, that's a big kill that you don't want to give up. And unfortunately, this also means that, well, Gardex kicked out of mid. He was getting XP while the puck rotated bottom, but with that failure of a play, it just means that now he has to get back on the active.
They are going to look to make a move. Heading down bot. They've still got that Nightmare Arrow combo to work with, but how sneaky can they be here? And really, is there a great target? Husky's pretty far back. They could try to make a play onto Moo, but he's sort of keeping his distance as well, not looking to get too far forward. And at this point, the Olakor, I think, yeah, he should be spotted at this stage, so 4 Zoomers know he's there, and they're just not going to fall into this trap. They're playing so far back, basically giving up the wave, but not willing to let that Mirana jump in onto them.
Yeah, and, well, that's where we say with this dire offlane tower, it's impossible for the Ursa to make the dive. It's very easy for him to get turned on if he is too far up, and Yuma certainly needs to be careful here. He does have support really just in the woods still, but you definitely don't want to get going. Actually, Moo has 2 null talismans. That is a fairly interesting build up on the SK. I've seen a lot of SKs go for the Tranquil Boots just to get that earlier Blink Dagger, but Nulls over Bracers, that's something a little bit different. Something no other offlaner has done so far.
Hello, Zefreak. Gardic and Theolacor run into him, so whatever sneaky play they were looking to attempt is going to get broken up as Gunnar is able to hit him up here. The rune, however, does go over to Analog, so the maneuver from those supports is at least distracting enough, and now they're going to look to make the jump in, but look at that, they just juggle that Nightmare once again. They are still going to try and go for the kill with the Dream Coil. It's enough to take down Zefreak, and, well, Gunnar, he's still going to get his kill. He'll take Gardic down. Theolacor is going to try to chase. Here comes Analog. Oh, my god. Analog tried to get in there as well, but the jump from Gunnar is too strong. Theolacor gets taken down as he was trying to track that. And, well, Gunnar, basically the winner of that fight. I mean, they lose their bounty hunter, but they make it a 2-for-1 trade. The Ember Spirit lives, heals up, and doesn't even miss much time in the lane as he jumps back to the Remnant.
No, and that's where you gotta be a little bit scared of Gunnar, man. He is always able to find these crazy plays, and I think that's where you want to put a lot of your effort into trying to shut him down here, but that's also where, actually, up in the top lane, Vitaly has been putting so much pressure on Kostabile, and even though Kostabile, he still gets the Jingu Mastery, he still gets the charges, it still feels like a struggle, and they do make a play onto Yuma, but he should just be able to walk away. Cannot be here anymore, though. He has to TP out probably with the Enrage, and yep, exactly what he's going to do, but that's where, unfortunately, the Sand King is the most displaced hero of them all, and we'll see how Moo actually decides to handle this here, but Arrow...
They caught Gunnar.
Uh-oh.
That's a big Arrow play. They need a little bit more nuke damage. They will have to throw out the Dream Coil. Would have loved to make it happen without it, but you want the kill on Gunnar more than any cooldown considerations, so they will be able to pick it up, and now Moo is still in some serious trouble here. He is going to try and channel out the... Ooh, hold on. Yep, he'll commit with the ult. Going in, looking for Gardic. Can Gardic keep himself alive? Brain Sap certainly bought him some time, and it's more than enough time to make that trade happen, but he does still go down. But if you're Hokori, those are really 2 of the bigger kills you were going to be able to get at this point in the game. You take down 2 cores, and the siege on this Tier 1 tower top continues.
No, it's very smart, very nice from them. And of course, this is just the trade of Tier 1s. It's really going to be the name of the game whenever that mid tower comes under threat. But Gunnar,
Oh boy.
has Vitaly fallen a little bit too low here? Does he just die to double Remnant? Oh, this
Doesn't
blow from
hit.
the Chakram. Oh, it's just a little bit too perfect, but I think he's got it anyway. Nice from Gunnar.
And, you know, we saw Vitaly do a little bit of this in the last game on the Broodmother, just getting that little bit too far forward, looking for those objectives. Analog kind of did the same thing on the mid Timber Saw. So, Hokori, that is not a back-breaking mistake right now, but you really can't afford it to do it too many more times. Otherwise, you are handing over some free gold on very valuable heroes. So, as much as Vitaly wanted to stick around and take that tower, at the end of the day, it is still just a Tier 1. Don't really think it's worth sacrificing yourself over.
No, and hey, it's always, you make a great play, then you stick around, then your opponent makes an even better one, and at the very least, people are dying, you know? That's more fun than the previous game. At least back and forth, that is, but...
This would be a huge kill if they could pull it off. They get the silence down first. Analog is going to throw out the Dream Coil, but they need this arrow to come in. Otherwise, the Wukongs is just going to be a issue as the Hand of God is actually deployed. That was incredible timing. I mean, Costable was maybe 1 or 2 hits away from being taken down. Instead, he lives, he gets out the Wukongs, which forces away those opposing heroes. It is a big cooldown to use that and the Hand of God, but you keep your carry alive, and Costable just goes right back to farming towards the Battle Fury play. This is not something we've seen from the Monkey King all that many times, AT.
No, we've seen the Echo Saber, we've seen the Maelstrom. This is definitely a first in the tournament, and we'll have to see. I think that must be with Costabile recognizing that. Oh, and Gunner. Oh, guarded.
Close. Very, very close, but not quite able to make it happen. They could still get eyes on Z-Freak, though, but...
Rip.
Okay. Big Pole is going to get a little bit of separation. That arrow, though, doesn't connect, but it forces the adjustment. Okay, Yuma says, I would like this kill, please. Thank you. Able to get a bit of a freebie there. Actually, his first kill of the game, but it is a pretty nice pickup for that Ursa. You see Yuma closing in-ish on that Diffusal Blade, so able to pick up a relatively easy kill like that onto the bounty. Gets right back into the jungle to continue farming. It's a nice move for Hokori, but outside of the Ursa's farm, we still need to see plays from the rest of the lineup, because you look at the net worth, they're still trailing by a couple thousand here.
No, it's definitely becoming a problem. And nice pick onto Moo. This is where he has to make the difficult decision, and he's not making any decision, so his backline gets cut off, and now it looks like Analog's dead as well. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Gunner making that happen, basically saying, Moo, you can hold your own for a little while. He gets behind, takes down Theolacor first. Now Gardic, I don't know if he's going to be able to get away. The Boundless Strike is going to be there as they are just toggling that Nightmare once again. And yeah, this Bane not going to be able to get away. One more hit will do it as Cristabile gets the kill. And Hokori, you really can't afford to make a play like that when they thought that they had caught Moo out by himself. Instead, they kind of initiate for their opponents, leaving the supports vulnerable on the backline. And Gunner at this point, we haven't really seen him build direct damage, as we're all of 15 minutes in, but with the Orb of Corrosion, he feels strong enough to just go in and take down your supports.
Yeah, and I think that's where just the reach onto Moo is just a little bit too far, and now Moo has his Blink Dagger. He is ready to go. He didn't even have to use his Epicenter because his opponents were just kind of running into him, and they could certainly make this play onto Vitaly to actually have the damage, and someone's got to come. Someone needs to help.
There's no one there. Vitaly's just going to be left all by himself, and they get that one pretty easily, and now they're set up for a tower push. Tier 1 top looking pretty vulnerable, and who's here to guard this? Gardic is here, Analog is here with a Dream Coil, but to go up against 4 heroes, that really doesn't feel like enough. Analog, though, is going to try to make the play. There's that Dream Coil coming in. Z-Freak dropped low, but again, doesn't have the damage. Hand of God comes in, just wiping all of that away. Hokori have to back off, but here comes Gunner looking to get in. Searing Chains connecting onto the Bane. Moo drops the Sandstorm into the Burrow Strike, and Gardic will be finished off.
Oh, man.
And now they're right back onto that Tier 1 tower. Don't even have to sort of sacrifice the objective. Analog, though, he's still hanging out, but now without the Dream Coil, there's really nothing he can do.
No, there really isn't, and that's where you ask yourself, is this the right build-up on the puck? He went for the Veil of Discord to assist his teammates' damage more so than his own, and it's where you question yourself, maybe I need Boots of Travel, maybe I need a Blink Dagger just a little bit soon. That's also where Gunner, in going for this Orchid, an Orchid that he has, is brutal, because you are forcing this puck to now go back for the Yule Scepter in a very awkward situation. Not to mention, they're in on Roche. They've got the Medallion, they've got the Chen Creeps, they can certainly take this, and this is versus the Ursa team. And this is happening as soon as Yuma gets his Diffusal Blade. You cannot ask for a more unideal timing.
Arrow flies through there at the end, so Theolacor, I believe, was able to take out a creep, but it's not really going to do a whole lot. And yeah, now, what does the timing look like for Hokori? Because your Ursa can't get the Aegis. Now you have to be very careful about how you approach these fights, but there's that Burrow. Nice play from Moo. Blink Burrow gets onto 2. Vitaly just going to get taken down really right away. The Dream Coil will be deployed, but Analog doesn't have the help to fight this. He's going to get taken down. Theolacor trying to get in there with a Starstorm. It's enough to finish off 1 or 2, but they need more, and with Yuma coming in, they might just be able to get it. As they finished off Costabile, Z-Freak, though, quickly bought back and TP'd back in. They would like to keep this fight going. The Dust, though, is going to reveal Gunner. They hit him up with the Nightmare. Where's the arrow? They're going to be able to throw it out from long range. Yuma now trying to get in there for the damage. They're going to be able to take down that first life. What can Z-Freak and Husky do if they look to go in a second time? Irrelevant. Not going to be a secondary fight. They get the Aegis and they back off.
No, I think Hokori are very scared. They know that Yuma's trying to be the hero right now, and I think without the Enrage and knowing that Gunnar has an Orchid, it's just a little bit too far-fetched for them to look for the re-engage as well. But it's where, hey, Yuma is trying to run it, and everything we've told about the Ursa, it is all true. You still have this Monkey King advantage, you still have the Diffusal Blade. It's just unfortunate that the Aegis is not in his own hands, but that's where the Ursa could definitely run it, and okay, free kill in the jungle, important for Analog especially, but you see Analog completely 180 on his build-up, no longer looking at the Blink Dagger, he's going to get the Yule Scepter, and honestly, if they can pause the game right now, finish up these crucial items, then Zoomers are going to hit a little bit of a speed bump in their current game plan, because they are going to run out of damage pretty soon here.
Gunnar looking to make a quick play onto Gardic here. Gardic's just going to lay out to try and get the ward down, but he got the sentry, but not the obs. So someone's going to have to come in there to finish it off, but Gunnar can't exactly de-ward himself right now. So I think, I think you're okay with that play. Gardic sacrificing himself for Vision is going to be just fine. If they can retake that west side jungle for the Ursa, that is going to be incredibly valuable for them. So willing to sacrifice his life. Meanwhile, for Yuma, Diffusal finished, as you mentioned earlier on. Had both the Blink and the BKB queued up. It looks like he is going to go for the latter, just so that he has a little bit more to work with in these fights, because Zoomers really have nothing to do against a BKB.
No, but this is a huge epi. Does he hit it? Oh, only onto one.
Analog.
You need the chains, but
Analog is trying to jump away. The Hand of God comes through, though, healing up for Zoomers. Analog ends up falling. Meanwhile, back in the river, Vitaly and Gardic are trying to do something here, but that Wukong's command really forces them to retreat, but they're not going to be able to get out. Burrow Strike comes in. They may not have a whole lot to do, ET, against a BKB, but without it, they are just locking heroes down. Vitaly looking a bit like Analog's Timber in that last fight, where he's just not that durable.
no, he just kind of gets bursted. He hasn't even gone for the hood, so we don't have any of that pseudo-tankiness on the Timbersaw. He's going for a Kai Sange now, and I think there might even be a Sange on his courier. I'm not entirely sure, but this is where, unfortunately, if you're losing fights versus a Battle Fury carry, the net worth is starting to become a little bit of a problem here. Not to mention, well, Yuma, no way they lose him like this.
He's going down. Not able to save him. Theolacor doesn't have much of a defensive play there, and this is looking terrible. We were just talking about Hokori maybe switching up their build, trying to snag some momentum back, but just when it was looking up for them, poor Zoomers are really striking while the iron is hot here, and they might look for a little bit more. They've got eyes on Gardic. They've got the track onto him as well, so this is the part where things get a little bit dicey, although as I say that, okay, Vitaly gets in there. He'll take down Husky. Theolacor is going to be sacrificed, but now Analog joins. They're able to throw down that Dream Coil, but Analog, the second he goes in, he's just getting blown up. He is not durable in the slightest. Costabile hits him with the Boundless for the kill, and now that leaves Vitaly to just run for his life, and he's not going to make it. This is just not enough. They cannot take these fights, and kills that earlier on in the game we might have been saying were unfortunate, but okay, that's not acceptable anymore, because this track gold is really coming into play. Four Zoomers are getting so much more out of any kill whatsoever, let alone a straight-up teamfight win.
No, and you're also seeing Z-Freak snowball. He's looking immediately for the Boots of the Bearing, and that's where the Death Ball is certainly starting to really begin here. You're going to have so much healing coming in from Husky. He's almost about to be level 12. Then you got that second point, Hand of God, not to mention, hey, he's got the Ag Shard. So many of Four Zoomers heroes have actually gone back for that Ag Shard, and I love to see it on the Sand King especially, just because it is that good. It's kind of sick, especially early on when the damage is incredible, but that's also where, if you're Hokori, it's starting to get a little bit nervous here, because Yuma, there's no Blink Dagger. He's not looking for the backline. He's barely getting a BKB so he can deal with some of this aggression, and it all comes from Gunnar. The only reason he looked for this item is because this Orchid got built up, and well, Vitaly, well, that's just a sad death to give up, but they're gonna make him work for it. Look at who, he just cancels it over and over, full damage.
Well, able to get the kill once again. Vitaly just is not durable. He got himself a plate mail, so he was a little bit tougher that time around, but still doesn't do him much good against the magic damage and the lockdown, for that matter. They're just hitting him up. They get the burrow, then they get the chains, then the Yule Scepter is defensive, but it prevents you from actually moving anywhere on that Timbersaw. So Four Zoomers really just knowing when and where to strike here. They get the kill, they get the tier 2 tower, and well, high ground push is certainly doable for them. Gotta watch their positioning maybe just a little bit. Don't overextend here, but they are going to look for the play. Costabile, meanwhile, he's got himself the Aghanim Scepter, so he's got those stone soldiers to really sort of help this push along, and that tier 3 tower is really just getting burned through. Analog's going to wait for his moment. He'll throw out the Dream Coil now. Where's the follow-up? Yuma's looking to get into the fight, trying to get directly onto the Monkey King. Hand of God coming in once again. Costabile, though, still dropping low, but Moo's going to jump in. There's the Burrow Strike onto 2. Vitaly dropped low. Yuma had to activate the BKB, but they do get their target. Costabile is taken down. Z-Freak pulling back. Don't want to overextend. I think they realize that this group up on the ramp is really just sitting there waiting for them to push forward. So they're just going to stop at the 1 kill, but it's a big one, ET. They get that Monkey King, and they just barely save their tier 3 tower. 14 HP.
Yeah, I can imagine Z or Husky maybe sends a creep down there just to finish off the tier 3, but at the same time, there actually wasn't enough save. There are no 4 steps built up. As much as I agree with ForZoomer's itemization here, a lot of their item pickups are really sick. I think without that type of save or the Boots of Bearing being finished up by Z-Freak, it just means that there is that nightmare situation where if Yuma can stay on the Monkey King for his entire BKB, the Monkey King will die. They didn't even use Grip in that fight, and oh, Vitaly.
Not going to be able to save him.
Oh no.
He just can't survive. That's just Moo getting in there, and now, yeah, this is a problem. Jumping in, looking for more. Going to try to get on Gardic. That is a very impressive coil, though. It allows Yuma to get in onto Gunner, but he needs to be able to actually finish this kill. He can't quite get onto the Ember.
Oh, no.
And now he's lost his backup. Even if he gets this kill, I don't think it matters. The Yule Scepter is going to throw him up in the air, and Gunner's just walking away. Yuma's all by himself now, and he's going to get taken down. Tunnel vision 100% there onto your Ember, and that just isn't going to cut it. They get completely wiped out, at least in terms of the core heroes. And ForZoomers, they're really looking to take control. Look at Moo trying to get all the way into the base. Unfortunately for him, he will miss with the burrow, but this is a play with 0 consequences.
No, and, well, maybe if the puck is alive, they throw a grip there and then something wild happens, but that's where it goes to be like having the boundless strike and just having that long-range disable. It's just impossible, but that's also where the cost in Yuma having to go for this BKB before the Blink Dagger, he spends so much time in these fights running around chasing the target. It's why Gunner just is able to survive there, because he's barely faster than the Ursa. And unfortunately, it's just the sad situation where if you have to split your damage, you're great at killing one hero and then moving on to the next. But as soon as you're forced into this ugly situation where I don't have the Furious Wipes to kill the Monkey King and the Ember, I need to hope I make the right choice. Otherwise, I get cleaned up after the fight. It's just a really horrible situation to be in if you are that Ursa. And all it takes is one fight. All it takes is one pickoff into the Roach Pit, and then Hokori are back. But it's where I think ForZoomers, if they can just move past the smoke, I can almost imagine Hokori using another smoke if this one misses, just because they need a pick into Roche. They need something to get this started. We're checking buyback to see if anyone randomly has it. I think ForZoomers might not even be able to care about it, but oh no, they found the Ursa first again.
They're going to get in onto Husky at least, so that Hand of God is now no longer available. Is that going to be enough, though? Moo getting in there with the ult. Analog dropping low, trying to dodge his way out of this. For now, at least, he is going to survive, but they need to be able to deal with the other cores. Yuma and Vitaly very low, not getting any hits onto Costabile at the moment, as Vitaly is just going to have to try and Timber Chain himself out, and not going to make it. Gunner takes him down for the triple, looking for the Ultra now onto the Ursa. And I do not think Yuma wins this one. Husky's going to steal the kill, but either way, it's a team fight victory to ForZoomers, and Hokori, they can't do what they need to do. If they get onto the right targets, they're not killing them quickly enough. If they don't get onto the right targets, and they're still sticking around. And I think the most important thing, I've mentioned it repeatedly at this point, ET, Analog and Vitaly die in 3 to 5 seconds at the maximum when there's actual damage inflicted on them. ForZoomers are not having any issues tracking down or burning through everyone other than Yuma.
Yeah, and sure, you lose the Sand King, but hey, they're going to take a one fight and lose the Sand King every day of the week, and that's where Moo is in that same realm where he is very killable. He's got very few items to make him tanky. He's just now going for the Lotus Sword, but hey, he's finding his Burrow Strikes, he's finding his stuns, and that's where, unless you find the Lincolns on Analog, the lockdown's just hitting on ForZoomers. If anything misses, these very pesky heroes can maybe slip out of a fight and then get a reset, but all of the damage is just being felt right now. Not to mention, just make sure that we're paying attention. Costabile's got the Aghanim Scepter, and with how much damage they're doing, because now the Scepter Monkeys can actually get Jingu stacks, I think, which is a little bit crazy. It's very funny when the Wukong's command actually goes down, but they are doing so much damage. Whenever Vitaly Timber changed through the Monkey King ring, again, thinking that with the stacks he'd be fine, it takes, I want to say, 1,000 damage in almost one Timber Chain, and that's where, well, they've got this pretty set at bottom. They deny the tower, but what do you do? Hokori, they don't have Aegis again. Their objective, their kind of win condition to keep them above in this game is gone, and now this is surely a free Rax, but what comes next?
Yeah, this is really just a horrible turn of events. Hokori with an Ursa lineup have yet to find any Aegis at all. As you mentioned, Costabile just hanging on to it and pushing forward, so what are you waiting for? What is the next big item that Hokori could pick up? Yuma is going to look for that Blink Dagger. That would certainly be useful. Analog wants the Kaya Sanj. Your Timber Saw is actually building the exact same thing, but other than the Blink, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if Kaya Sanj is going to be enough in the way of damage and durability to alleviate the concerns we've had for Analog and Vitaly. They're still going to push into the fights. They're still going to get taken down pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, and, well, if Hokori are going to really ride this one out, I feel like we need to see an Ags on Analog. I feel like we need to see a Basher on Yuma. We need really a lot of items to get ourselves back in this game. I'd love to see Vitaly switch his build up as well. Buying the Sanj now is fine, but I think he almost immediately needs to turn that into a Halberd, because without those tools, well, 4 Zoomers don't really have anything to worry about. They're even getting time to go back for these defensive items. Gunner's turning around for a BKB. He gets the Blink Dagger, which is the most Gunner thing. I think he's one of the only Ember Spares that actually gets this, because he looks for the Swift Blink immediately, and hey, that's the beginning of 731. That's exactly what he was doing. He was turning around for a Battle Fury and doing as much physical damage as humanly possible. But look at this. They don't get dewarded here. Gardic got greedy. Didn't have the Sentry.
Taken down quickly, and that's not a whole lot committed. Just some blinks, a Burrow Strike, the Boundless came out, but other than that, they maintain their ult statuses on 4 Zoomers. Do they try to push the high ground right now, though? Because Gardic is a nice kill, but it's a short death timer, and really is only a Bane. Although, if they knew how many heroes were out of the base, maybe they would give it a go. Analog is on the cliff. Vitaly's pushing the lane, so... well, instead, they're going to try and just take the last of the outer towers, pushing their way onto the tier 2 top.
Yeah, and it is certainly the safer play, as Analog actually got bashed by the Janata. That's the shard. Okay. Should be fine, but this is certainly going to be an expedition here. And
hold on. Enemy Yules. I don't know what he can do now. He can try and maybe jump with the orb, but it's a short jump and he's not going to make it. Oh boy, that shard pickup is, well, it's pretty nice. 1 second stun may not be the longest, but 1 second's all you need to disrupt Analog, and now Hokori, there's nothing that they can do. They can't fight without Analog. They need the Dream Coil in there, so they're just going to have to either wait it out or buy him back, and if you buy back right now, this Puck's progress is going to get reset in a just terrible way, so really they can't afford to, but now their high ground is under attack. Force Staff pushing Costabile into the base a little bit there, but Hokori aren't going to commit fully forward, especially considering Aegis still has about a minute on that timer.
Ooh, and they should be able to get the Aegis away here, but oh, they don't want to fully commit.
Oh, Vitaly, he's in trouble. Wukong's command's going to come out, and well, Vitaly just has to hold his own. He's not dead yet. Nope, never mind. Moo's able to finish him off. They did burn the Aegis, but that's not going to be enough. 4 Zoomers just keep on pushing forward. They're going to take the top lane of Rax, and at this point, yeah, they're just going to go right over to that middle lane, looking to really just finish this one off and get those Megas online. Is there a response? There's a buyback from the Timber Saw. Analog's back in. But if they lose this fight, it's pretty much over. This is their last gasp. They're going to go in. Dream Coil's going to connect onto 2. But again, Analog, he's just not in the slightest bit durable. He is immediately killed off. Yuma now basically fighting by himself. His supports are trying to reposition. They're not going to be able to do so. And this one is looking just about over. There's the GG call. Hokori will call it quits. And 4 Zoomers take back-to-back wins after dropping the first match here. They'll get the series, and they move on to the next round.
Yeah, and again, they had their fighting chance in this game. I think if Hokori don't have that or that extenuating circumstance where they lose the first roach, where 4 Zoomers 16 minutes into the game say, "Hey, our Chen's strong enough, our Monkey's in a good spot, our Sand King can even help out with this. Let's just take it away from him." It just threw a wrench into the game plan of Hokori, and then suddenly Yuma's not playing with an Aegis, he's playing with a Diffusal Blade, but even that timing, and I believe it's a good timing, maybe a little bit late, 16 minutes into the game, 15 minutes into the game, but I think 2 minutes too late for 4 Zoomers to just start snowballing, start taking away what you need. And I think that's where you really can't highlight enough how the game changed for Gunner specifically. Once he got that Orchid, he caught so many heroes off guard. It was literally the perfect item choice. It forced Vitaly to turn around for a Yule's analog in the same way, had to turn around for that item, and then suddenly you don't have a hood, you don't have a pipe, you don't have this tanky item that's going to help you survive versus the Sand King as well. And what a Sand King game from Moo. I think once he got that Blink Dagger, everything changed. He was the perfect second fiddle. He was exactly what he needed for Gunner to just immediately take this. And all the while, Costa is farming with the Battle Fury on Monkey King, speeding towards his timings. And unfortunately, that's where Hokori, they get a few picks here and there, they get a few kills, but just, again, wasn't active enough. They weren't able to turn their heroes into plays where 4 Zoomers, they just put their enemies against a really tough wall, and then they just kind of take all the kills. 13-1 and 18 on that Ember Spirit, by the way. Not double digits, or rather, not 20 kills, but still, the man is just unbeatable on this Ember.
Incredible performance from the Ember. Solid stuff from Moo on that Sand King as well. And we mentioned coming into the game, a lot of pressure was going to be on his shoulders to be that initiator, and he certainly did not back down from that challenge. Helps to get his team the win, and 4 Zoomers, well, they handle business. Game 1, obviously things slipped through their fingers a little bit, but they're able to respond with back-to-back wins, and they are looking pretty good now moving into that third round.
Yeah, I think now teams that are going to be forced to go up against them, and I guess we'll see which team goes up against them by the end of the day, but really got to look at that LD, really got to look at ways that I think Hokori were put into a position that just seemed unwinnable, and then not let that happen to them, because you can't give 4 Zoomers a free victory in a best-of-3 series.
Well, unfortunately, Hokori not able to really help themselves from avoiding that fate here. In the meantime, we are going to be setting up for the next series. Before that, though, we do have an interview with Husky, so we're going to step out for just a moment while we get that set up, get him in here to have a bit of a talk with us. So stick around, don't go anywhere. We will have Husky in just a few moments. Okay, there we go. Make sure I didn't break anything camera-wise. Hello, everybody. We are back for our winner's interview. Excuse me. We have Husky of 4 Zoomers here to speak with us. So, Husky, thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the interview.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. So we'll just get right into it. I wanted to ask you, 4 Zoomers as a team sort of have a reputation whenever a new patch comes around for sort of being willing to maybe experiment a little bit earlier and with different heroes compared to some of your opponents. You did that in the group stage, as ET and I were constantly talking about. You ended up sort of missing the upper bracket by just 1 or 2 points, but now you are coming into this playoff series looking pretty good. Do you feel like the experimentation in the group stage is now sort of paying off, and you are able to put strats on the board that your opponents may not be comfortable with yet?
Yeah. I mean, I think Moo especially has this brings this philosophy of like when we play these tournaments, we don't really care about our group stage standings, like as long as we're not eliminated, and we were pretty confident that wouldn't happen. So like even if you even mention where we are in the standings, he'll get like mad. He'll tell you to like stop, or he'll like mute you in Discord because he just doesn't want to know where we are. 'Cause he doesn't want to play the games for like points. He wants to play the games to practice and to improve and to just try out what we want to try out, especially at the start of a new patch, because scrims are like really scarce right now, while all the NA teams are kind of still on break, like the big ones. So these are like our scrims at the moment. And yeah, I do think they paid off. I think less so than like the specific heroes. Like, yeah, we tried Bounty Hunter and like we played Bounty Hunter in the groups and we're like, oh, this feels good in this situation, it feels bad in this situation. It's more about just understanding like the pace of the current patch, which is obviously really fast, really aggressive. So we just learned the patch and then fit heroes into like certain roles that we need to play the game the way we want to play.
Looks like, yeah, you guys have been able to really sort of get one over, which sort of leads me into the next point here. You go the full 3 games, and in the previous 2 games, Hokori had been pretty disciplined there, but they let your Chen through in the last one. Ah, I mean, how does it feel? Teams are now sort of letting you get back on that hero that you are kind of notorious for at this point.
Um, so they had to essentially make a choice, and this is what happened between game 2 and game 3. After game 2, I got up and I went to get some food and go to the bathroom, and I was like thinking to myself, maybe we're supposed to take first pick if we have priority, because the team that's second pick has to ban Tiny. At least in these 2 teams' opinions, we need to ban Tiny because the hero is just too good. And after we just beat them with Lone Druid, I figured that they probably also want to ban this Lone Druid, which means I'll probably get Chen if we take first pick, or if they ban Chen, then we'll get Lone Druid or Tiny. So I was like, we should just probably take first pick, and team was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's just try it, see what happens. And they actually had priority, so they chose Radiant. I think they thought we would do the same thing. I think they thought they would take Radiant and we would take second pick, and I think they wanted first pick. So that's what I think happened. Obviously, I can't prove that, but that is my assumption.
Well, yeah, they were forced to pick their poison, and well, who knows how the game would have gone if they'd have gone in a different direction. But at least this time we got to see you on one of your signature heroes. So thank you very much for entertaining us on that, Chen.
It was my that was probably I had double harpy creep and the mana aura creep, and that was
Yeah.
probably the
Mhm.
dirtiest thing I've ever had.
Yeah.
My harpies had 5.5 mana regen without me even having to buy a Bassi, and it was just disgusting. The farm speed, the team fight damage was just it was way too cool. I had fun.
It was just gross. It's like he's running out, right? He's running out of stuff. No, nope, he's still going.
Yeah.
It's just not slowing down. But I'll give the floor over to ET here as we carry on.
I mean, I'm just looking at it. I mean, what? That was like 14-minute medallion and mech. Like, what do
Yeah.
you do? You just give up, dude? Like, I don't know. That's pretty bad. But I guess, like you said, this patch is really fast, and it certainly seems a lot of these teams and a lot of these games are not even breaking 40 minutes. For previous patch, that was pretty much where we were destined to go. And with that, do you think that with the way that teams are going to draft as it kind of evolves here, we see more of an emphasis on the laning stage and how we can actually counterpick and win lanes, as opposed to before it felt like you always got to play for the later timing. It ended up being more about your core matchups than actually what your laning matchups were. Do you think that's where kind of Dota's heading right now, in your opinion?
I think Dota always like every patch, for most patches, Dota ends up just becoming this team fight meta.
Hmm.
You saw it last year during like the LGD and IG majors where they won. Like eventually, patches just become about big team fight, unless split pushing is just really prominent. And right now, all the aura, all the auras are really good. Like Boots of Bearing, the new Wrath Totem thing, all the creeps got buffs. So creep heroes are much better. Dominator heroes are much better. It's really hard to rats when there's this much push and this much like ghost shove. So it's pretty hard, I think, to not play into a team fight meta right now. But we'll see where it evolves into.
Okay. And I guess the only other question is, how do you guys feel about the Timber Saw? Because of course, you have Moo on your team. He's Moo. That is his hero. TI 6 grand finals, Moo Timber Saw. But it feels like a lot of the time we haven't seen you guys pick it up, mainly because I think your opponents are picking it up, and then you guys end up counter picking it or finding a way to kind of move around. When it feels like that is one of the few heroes that's actually able to beat through a lot of these strength cores in the meta.
Yeah. So without like revealing too much, I think Timber. Moo and I had talked about Timber a lot actually recently, like trying to figure out what the build is, if it's good, if it's bad. But Timber, I think is a fine hero, but I think the way they drafted around it was just very poor. Like they have Timber, Brood, Naga, Siren cores. Like
Yeah.
all three of
Yeah.
these heroes want team fight to back them, and they have no synergy at all. So they're just playing like a tri-core lineup with no way to actually ever fight us. And they kind of did the same thing in game 3. Like they went for this puck to like help the Timber Saw. But in that game, you could argue our lineup's just much faster tempo. But their game 2 draft was definitely very poorly built around Timber, in my opinion. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that's also where. Do you think that the best of 3 format matters a little more? I think in that format, it's why you get the Chen in game 3. And do you think that as we kind of progress here, like you said, it felt like first pick was the correct choice, and I think you guys definitely make the right assessment. But that's where maybe teams need to be a little bit more careful in these drafts.
Um, Yeah, I mean, best of threes are a lot more enjoyable, and best of twos are pretty unsatisfying because if this was a best of two, we'd both walk away 1-1, and you could say we got the last win, so we were ahead in that trade. But I don't think anyone's happy with a 1-1.
No,
And
definitely.
yeah, you definitely get these situations where there's a lot of mind games and strategy involved with the drafting, especially in game threes. So it's a lot more interesting and enjoyable, probably from both watching and playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it for me, I'll be honest, because we might hear from you again. We'll have to see what your run is going forward, but honestly, you guys are looking great right now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Husky. Yeah, we'll save a couple questions, see how far you guys go in case there is part two of this interview. But again, congratulations on the win and good luck further forward.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
So, always forget that those cameras will break. But thank you very much to Husky for having a conversation with us here. And again, we will see four Zoomers moving forward. As you can see, you got the bracket up on your screen right now. They will advance to that next round. The question is, who will they be playing up against? It's going to be either Infamous or Wild Card Gaming. And we are just moments away from the start of that series. So, one last thank you to Husky. Appreciate him stopping by after that victory. And we're going to be moving along here in just a few more moments. So, game one of Infamous versus Wildcard will be coming up in about 4 or 5 minutes here. Stick around and we will be right back for the start of that one.